We are back home, everyone. Thanks for the patience. Thanks for everything. The ongoing support. Wait till you see the drawing. Or the painting, I should say, by Uxine. That was awesome. That was awesome. Artist Journal, January 24th, 2025. Broadcasting from a laptop deep in Berlin, Germany. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Straight jacket and all, to quote our good friend up in the stars, Lee Scratch Perry, welcome back. Okay, so I guess we'll begin. Again, thanks for the patience. Vancouver was great. It was remarkably sunny, which was awesome. You never get done as much as you want, and man, did I want to get a show done in that hotel room. That was one heck of a hotel room they put me in. But of course, I had to work on the presentation that I was giving, which you'll see in a second here. Not the whole thing. They haven't posted it online yet. I think they will. Actually, you can hear me talk about the supply chain, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, more excitement. More excitement here. This was definitely a standout. So we have an interesting collab. I think Xerox put this together, if I'm not mistaken. Sabato and Christen Roose, the collab room, exterior interiors. Collaboration between Christen Roose. So again, I'm always balancing out here the people that are new and the people that, have been watching for 2.5 years or have been, frankly, paying attention for even longer in the scene. Christen Roose, of course, vintage software. And if you go to Christen Roose's website, you'll see a wonderful tour, which I need to return to. There's a show. I could just hit record and do a live show and just go through Christen Roose's website and checking out all the softwares. That would be fun. Anyways, Christen Roose, really cool artist. I think out of Canada, actually, maybe BC, if I'm not mistaken, British Columbia. I think. I could be wrong about that. Sabato out of Massachusetts, I believe. United States, collabing, and both using vintage software. Of course, Sabato, well known for the drawing exercises using deluxe paint. Those tend to be I'd say the biggest kind of most enthusiasm is for them. And I think the interesting reason why, and look at this, already 135 Tezos on secondary. If you want a copy, for those that are outside the blockchain, it'll cost you $160, and it's an edition of 33. You'd probably put in an offer for less. Virtual exhibition created by Beats and curated by Xerox. There we go. So, offers, people paid $80 for this work. 83 is the last. So, yeah, I mean, when things sell that well, when you're getting $110 times 33, when you're bringing in $3,200, maybe more, maybe that'll lead to another collab. So I think what's going on here, if I had to hazard a guess, is Christen Roose probably did the architecture here in black and white, if I had to venture a guess. And Sabato, it looks like kind of classic Sabato scenery and color, I might add. Sabato has an excellent sense of color, I would argue. It's one of those, color is such a interesting, it's a qualitative quality. Like it's qualitative. Forgive me if I actually slept wonderfully, surprisingly, but I did just arrive last night here in Berlin from Vancouver. That was a huge flight. I slept 4 hours on it, though. Incredibly. I never sleep that long on a flight. I must have been tired. Anyways, it looks like we're back to color here. And this very, it's a nebulous issue color. But you know it when you see it. And because, of course, you can't reduce it to, mathematical formula, so to speak. It's just a qualitative thing. It's not... I was going to say it's not scientific. It's not a quantitative issue that, okay, if you hit the right numbers on the color slider and you plug in this formula, your color is going to be wonderful. Again, as I always say here, a lot of the magic of painting is in the color. And I think we had a comment on that. I wish I could remember what the comment was. Maybe I even brought it up in a previous show. But I think we see that here. Again, it's part of the poetry even. And again, I always go back to The Deposition, I think is what it's called, by Raphael at Galleria Borghese by Piazza del Popolo in Rome, in the big park. You'll see, I think, The Deposition. We'll look at that in a second, just for fun. Anyways, so beautiful work here. And I think it really is emblematic, I would say, of a lot of what we see in this scene, which is this celebration of, to a certain degree, pixel art, but I'd say vintage software, and this almost rebirth. Because what's interesting about this vintage software is, and we've discussed this before, is over time, as the decades pass, I mean, these softwares, I'm not sure what Christen Roose is using. It could be also Deluxe Paint. I'm not sure, but I know Sabato uses Deluxe Paint on, I think, a virtual Amiga. And what's interesting about it is I'm not sure this kind of work came out 30 years ago. You know, the only person I can think of is the person whose name I can't remember. This woman who did brilliant work that's in the Tate Electric Dream show. The show that they were trying to do, I think, was kind of Harold Cohen, and I wish I could remember her name. If anybody knows, please drop it in the comments. Who did these amazing video game stills. We've looked at it here in the past. Other than her, I'm not sure back then we saw a ton of this kind of really poetic exploration of the software. And I'd argue the reason for that is over the years, the software takes on, and the visual qualities of the software, I would argue, take on new meaning, is really what happens here. And why now, you know, here we are in 2025, right? The software that came out in maybe the 1989, 1990, here we are 35 years later. It's taken on a different significance. And this is key, actually, because in a sense, it's all about meaning, so to speak. And interestingly, the visual aesthetic, it also changes. The appreciation, you know, like I think we appreciate, put it this way, as I've discussed in the past before, in a sense, for those that grew up, you know, as I did, you know, I was born in 1979, so I remember the 90s quite well. And usually when you saw software that was kind of chunky and pixelated, it was seen as a bug and not a feature. Today, if you have some wonderful pixelated software from the late 80s, early 90s, it's seen as a feature. It's like, I can't wait to see that. So this evolution of the appreciation, to a certain degree, of pixel art, coming from this very humble, low-resolution softwares and video games. And I think maybe that's why pixel art is still the nature of the confusion. The visual language of what we're speaking here is still, to a certain degree, at best misunderstood, or I would even perhaps say in most cases not understood, that there actually can be a poetic element to pixel art. But as we see here, I mean, what a canvas. What a canvas we are looking at. You can buy it. Okay. So, and just finally on this point, the reason I say this misunderstanding is because I experienced it myself till relatively recently. As I've mentioned many times on this show, early on, pixel art, I didn't know what to do with it because I kind of liked it. But I was like, is this serious art? And I think that's the nature of the misunderstanding that probably exists for, I would argue, many of the most important curators in the world by reputation. I would argue. That is what I saw. That's what I would speculate of what I saw at, say, the Electric Dream shows at the Tate. It's like they were trying to do it, but they hadn't really made the leap over, perhaps, to pixel art, which is kind of like the frontier, and perhaps because of its very humble origins. This is video game stuff. This is kid stuff, right? And again, I say it as someone who kind of had that bias, or that I just simply didn't speak the language. I didn't understand the visual language. So all to say, a beautiful work, and it did quite well. Interesting, is that a 45-degree angle? I think it is. So a cool collab here. Not exactly ever, the content of it with these, it's kind of interesting. Seems to be loosely, finally, a commentary on, I almost want to say of these chicken coops where, or ducks, stuck in these little things. But here instead, they're enjoying themselves on the beach and having a good time. You see Sabato's humor in the little beach scenes here. And of course, the color. And Christen Roose's very nice architectural kind of black and white structure here, including this little kind of almost shadow area here, or whatever this is, these spaced out pixels. Beautiful work, exterior, interiors, great work. So big shout out and thank you. Of course, I follow the great Uxine. I mean, what an honor. One of the most notable artists on the blockchain here so I did this speech here at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. I have to say, this was like a perfect tweet. And I was asking someone about it. I'll just read it quickly and then I'll just tell you, I'll show you. At VRIC, Adrian Pocobelli discussed the importance of metallurgy to a civilization's success throughout history and the role it plays today in the EV battery supply chain, which is dominated by China. And it should be out, actually, I think in the next week or two, if I had to guess, on YouTube. I will share it. Until the West, and here it is, until the West gets serious about not building a mine, but building smelters, refineries, the metal processing capacity, it will always be at a disadvantage with one hand tied behind its back economically. So you can see that video. It's a kind of a different story over there. That's my regular job as a podcast where I talk about, metals. But what a perfect tweet. And I thought to myself, like, how did they do that? Even the photo. And I think and then a friend was like, well, it's probably AI. But I'm like, how does AI do that? But maybe they took video is what I'm thinking. And then you get the great little summary and you kind of get the perfect shot. Because I was like, I was going to go to the resource investing people here. I think it's Investment News Network, or I was going to go to their table. I was going to be like, who the heck did that? So I never got the chance, but I have a feeling that person was right. It probably was AI, probably with video, and then you just upload it and say, make a post. Never thought about that. Anyway, Uxine, hilariously, an audience gathered for a talk on resources is unexpectedly drawn into a story about the thrilling world of blockchain art. I absolutely loved this. And again, yeah, I was thinking to myself, no other presenter got this treatment here. Hilarious. Thank you, Uxine. And beautifully done and rendered these awesome skulls. And hilarious. I mean, Uxine from front to finish. Anyways, thank you. This was interesting to me also from Uxine. And we have another work actually in kind of in the lineup here, but I did want to highlight this. I don't know what's going on here, but I freaking love it. It looks like Monopoly Guy kind of repeated a few times, and maybe, I don't know, two colors, somehow an outline made here. 2025 so far. I'm not sure if this is, I can't think of any work I've seen by Uxine that's quite like this. It does have his style. It has his colors. It has his kind of painterliness. And you even see, I don't know if you can see that, there's a slight line there where you see it's kind of checkered underneath here and then it's flat on top. There's something really great happening here. And I wonder if it was just, I don't want to call it a throwaway, but something he did quickly and just was like, here's a joke thing I can put on X. But there's something really great going on here. So I just wanted to highlight that. This is really nice, whatever's going on here. Comments from last show. Thank you for the support. As ever, posted in Vancouver. Where was this? So that was the first hotel I was in. That was a exchange. Nice hotel. They put me at the Pacific Rim for the conference, though. And it was almost like a suite. Like you have the chairs, big office. That was fancy. So anyways, thank you, Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. I really wanted to record there, but at the time, anyways, let's continue. Comments. I love this comment, by the way. Ordinary Hand. I've been watching your podcast for a year or so. I'm an artist and I enjoy geeking out about art making, but rarely have the slightest clue about what you're talking about in terms of the digital art market. And I actually met with an old friend from university while I was in Vancouver. And actually two old friends, one from Montreal, one from Saskatchewan when I was in university, both living in Vancouver. It really is always the same thing here. And I want to fix that. I'm going to put out videos because I knew it was an issue. It's an issue and I have to explain it. Is there somewhere I could go to get an extremely basic primer on NFT art or how to dabble as an artist? I may do it this weekend. I know I've been saying this for a long time, but it's basically at the top of the priority in terms of this entire project called this show. So I am on it. It is my top priority. There's also putting work on Bitcoin, inscribing, as they say. I'm going to start explaining it. I'm going to take you how to get a wallet, how to buy, everything, because there is a gap and people simply don't get it. I will say this one thing. Is you never quite really understand it until you do it. And that happened to me with crypto, that once I finally bought some Bitcoin, then months later, I actually tried to send it. And once I sent it and it worked, that's when the light bulb goes off. And it's the same thing with digital art, buying digital art. You don't necessarily really understand it. I was selling it for a year before I bought an NFT, a digital object, so to speak. And once I bought it and I had this, and I was in my wallet, it was like, oh, and then I never looked back. I was like, holy, this is awesome, right? So yes, I am absolutely on this. As I say, it's my top priority. I'm not sure into the crypto aspect or investing as I just never have any money. Yeah, so, and one key thing here is crypto is how you buy and sell digital art. That is the key. So just so you know, but I will explain this further. And I'm pretty skeptical about NFTs based on my exposure to them. Yeah, and I'd say that's the general impression. But I'm curious about how to put stuff online if I did start to experiment with digital art as a potential marketable sideline to my quote-unquote real practice. I really just have no idea what is possible. I'm sorry, I realize this is all very elementary. Cheers. No, I'm so glad, Ordinary Hand, that you wrote this, because it just further highlights for me personally the importance of doing some primers here. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why, in a sense, it's still a small scene. So let me help you. I am on it. Thank you very much for the comment. Joshua Sobel, also known as Aw Heck, I know you like making time for movies, but Jodorowsky, Holy Mountain and El Topo is life-changing cinema. Please report back when you've seen it. Curious to hear your impressions. Yes, I've been hearing about Jodorowsky for literally, actually my friend who I saw in Vancouver, I think mentioned it to me when I lived in Montreal, maybe 20 years. Well, I lived there 2004 to 2011. It could have been 20 years ago. I've been hearing about how I need to watch this guy. So yeah, I'm on it. I watched a lot of movies, though, on the plane. I think I watched Lord of the Rings. That was great. Then I slept, surprisingly. Also, thanks for the support here on the show. That was a fun show with that Dan Control. The Enlightener, Vancouver, indeed. I was in Vancouver for the week. I'm back in Berlin now. Thanks for the comment. It was beautiful. That was Vancouver. I was walking along. Vancouver is a beautiful city, I have to say. Okay, let's continue. Rural Idol. Thanks for the shout out, Poco, and lovely to follow Captain's piece. Felt a real kinship with that one. You're welcome, Rural. That was a beautiful artwork, kind of cool pixel arty piece of the hill. King of NFT, thank you for the comment. Andre Ballestero, interesting discussion as always. You're welcome. Thank you. I am waking up here, folks. Pedro Jose, I already had my coffee, but okay, let's put you on speaker to enjoy your great art reviews. You're welcome. They're not reviews, but I appreciate it. Absurdity. Finally, you had me hooked on daily episodes. I feel terrible about this. And then, oh my God, experiencing withdrawal already. Had to pull up some older episodes. Currently on episode number 69 in a quest to watch them all, which is awesome. I'm looking forward. Absurdity is actually going to be on the next space on Wednesday. I'll put out the tweet, I guess, on Monday. So that should be fun to talk about. Quick, I hoped, but alas, not. Note about Rodeo. I agree with almost all of what you've expressed and have always questioned how this platform really benefits artists. However, as a collector, it's really hard not to partake in the 1970s Las Vegas-style buffet of outstanding works for so little investment. It's not at all like the fall 2024 Rodeo, which was almost entirely made of works in progress and would be embarrassed to mint on a real platform. No, now much of the work can be easily minted on Foundation or Object. How can a collector not collect these pieces if the artists are voluntarily posting? I mean, this is really what it all comes down to. Rodeo is fantastic for collectors because they buy artworks for 17 or 34 cents. Artists get 17, something like this. But it's not that great for artists at the end of the day. I know. I would argue. I mean, we've discussed this many times. There are certain benefits. Okay, maybe a bit more exposure. But financially, it hasn't been that great, except for some occasional cases. I know some collectors are taking the high road and refusing to participate. I don't really open it, and I'll check in for this show, but I've kind of stopped collecting there. I'm kind of over it. I'm not going to say I'm never going to collect there again. If Waffles puts out a bunch of amazing works, okay, you got me. But generally speaking, I may not even. And that would be a sad situation for me. But how does that help the artists who are already on the platform? I know some collectors are taking the high road and refusing to participate, but the artists can go to any platform they want. I don't know if it's helping them. Put it this way, as a whole, it doesn't help the artists to be on a 17-cent, getting 17 cents for your art, I would argue. And if the lobster at the buffet is truly delicious, then why pay 10 to 100x for the same lobster? It's almost like the H&M, fast fashion sort of thing. It's sort of but you want to support, what some people would say, and I don't know what the actual situation with H&M, but basically, slave labor. I'm not going to call this, artists put it up voluntarily, but it's kind of an analogous argument. Because you're getting lobster for $10. This is awesome, right? So again, it's great for collectors, but I'm not sure it's really helping artists that much, to be honest, other than a few who are doing all right, like Yoa Ian is doing well. Sure, Rodeo may disappear, but so long as base is around, the art minted on base through Rodeo can always be exchanged through OpenSea. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think from a provenance point of view, it's not terrible. I've never been super excited about layer 2s on Ethereum as far as putting art. I'm not against it. At least it's Ethereum, So yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't think I've actually ever put any work on base, for example. To me, time is short. So I'm kind of all about Bitcoin right now and Tezos as well, just because the community is so it's a great place to sell your art at the end of the day. You want $100-$200 for your art? Look at what they did with Sabato and Christen Roose. I mean, bringing in $3,000. It's pretty good, right? Okay, and yes, that is a risk, but as you already are already so acutely aware, that could happen with Tezos as well. Only Bitcoin seems to be immune from that concern. All to say, at least for the moment, I'm gorging myself sick on the feasts that artists on Rodeo are serving up. As with the older Las Vegas buffets, this will not last forever, and I fully believe we will all look back on this moment as the unsustainable but unique opportunity that it was, at least for collectors. I'm hoping it will prove to be great benefit for the artists, but I'm still highly skeptical of that. Sounds like Absurdity is actually kind of on the same page, kind of, on what we're saying here on the show. And sorry for I don't want to apologize too much. I mean, I'm not really paid for this, but yeah, I'm just putting the shows out when I can, is kind of how I'm doing it. And it's sort of like journals, you want to be daily, but you're not necessarily. And yeah, and so, yeah, I'm trying to figure this out still. Here we are, years later, as the hair poofs, going for my haircut tomorrow. So let's see. I mean, this weekend, for example, who knows if I'll put out a show. I may try and put out a Bitcoin, how to inscribe on Bitcoin, or some starter videos for our friend there, Ordinary Hand. So anyways, thanks for the comment, Absurdity. Looking forward to Wednesday. Zozo. Sometimes you go far. Sometimes you go too far. Yes, with physical artworks. Yes, great episode. Thank you, Zozo. Awesome to hear from you, Filippo Francocci. Great show, and thanks so much for featuring my work. You're welcome. It's beautiful. Dan Control, Nerryman, thank you for the comment. Retro Manny, perfect timing. I'm in with my evening tea. Yeah, indeed. Vancouver, you're much later time zone there. Deck art, the magic of painting is color. Here it is. I think the magic of painting is chaos as well, and wonder how its material chaos translates to digital painting. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that create aesthetics. But weirdly, I dare say that color, I would argue, is an underrated element to a certain degree and is part of the magic. And I think seeing Raphael for the first time in person is where you start going like, whoa, right? And then you see, and that's what I'm talking about, the magic. So we can talk about everything else, but color, I would argue, is actually maybe the most potent magic in art, so to speak. Like, art has many magics, you might say. Color or poetries, but color is probably, and it's a poetry that exists only in visual art. It's not like, in writing, you don't get the poetry of color, right? So again, I would say there's something, very special about color. Thank you for the comments, Steekart. Esamalik, thank you. And this was hilarious. Probably spam. I was like, I took a look. It's Pinstake. But unfortunately, Pinstake deleted the account again. Always on the blockchain, mysterious figure, enigmatic figure on the blockchain. There's Sahar. Wow, great to hear from you. So speaking of Rodeo, Brett Stebbins, been collecting some amazing art on Rodeo, but I have noticed a slowdown of posts from artists I follow. I think what's happening is artists have been, we're basically experimenting and seeing, is this the next big thing? And the pay isn't coming through. Like, the pay kind of sucks. It's kind of, I think, what happened. Not sure selling art there will work for me, but I like how fun it is to scroll and collect. Again, it's wonderful for collectors, isn't it? I sure hope it is not a passing trend. We'll see. I kind of hope it is. I'm kind of over it. I never kind of was for it, but if that's where everybody wants to post their art, I will show the work. But you see, even up here, see the Rodeo? Like, it's starting to get more scant, isn't it? There's not as many of those tabs. Pure XYZ, as far as I can tell, Rodeo minted a whole bunch of footage they don't own. Make it make sense. Corpo nonsense advertisements masquerading as underground punk is gross. So they put out this video. I don't want to show too much of it, because in case there is actual copyright issues there. Oh my God, Estelle Flores, this video just broke me. I can't believe somebody thought this was good. Jesus, get a grip. There's nothing less underground than this video. So I think what we're seeing here is something I've discussed in the past, and I literally don't want to show that video for copyright reasons. So I think what's going on here is this forced marriage between crypto culture and kind of tech and money, and that kind of tech money scene that is crypto, which is fun in its own right. But it's a forced marriage between that and what I would call like real artists, right? Real artists wanting to put their work out and, sell their work. And I think that video to me is kind of like the, this forced marriage. That is what is going on here. That is the friction. It's like a perfect example of that kind of clash of cultures there. So yeah, interesting. This is cool. Paintboxed. I think Sabato might have retweeted this. I'm not sure. What did advertising for the future of creativity look like in the mid-'80s? These Quantel Paintbox ads from 1985 and 1986 embodied bold aesthetics and groundbreaking ideas of the digital age. So I was just discussing this, right? Like, in a sense, broadcast quality, 16 million colors, real time. Because back then, as it was with video games, and even still is with video games, although there are articles that are starting to counter this, but it's kind of been always about getting higher resolution and more realistic graphics, right? And so back then, in like mid-'80s, it was a bug, pixelation, not a feature. When we go back to these softwares, like if we went to Paintbox now, we'd go for it for the pixelation, right? So the significance of the pixelation has changed. Now it becomes this kind of nostalgic, aesthetic, appreciation that kind of warms our heart and that we actually truly love. So this kind of nicely illustrates what I was discussing earlier. This is super interesting too. I never get tired of this stuff. These pen plotters it just shows how good they are at doing pixel art or pixelation. So we saw with Ai Weiwei, I think it was some sort of screen printing. And here we see pen plotting. So lots of options here to make your work physical. Speaking of making your work physical, here's the myth. I think this is Mikey de la Creme. Can't stop the myth, indeed. So beautiful hoodie there from the myth. Speaking of beautiful, this was a cool title there. Looks, what do they call it? Not star, but not accent. I can't remember. But 3 stars here, we'll call it, for a 5-star painting. Speaking of color, here we have Rat Cloak, and speaking of the subtlety of the color, with this incredible painting here of this person in the water, mysterious, on the horse backwards. Here, like rowing a boat. It's kind of like a portrait of this guy who's, it's either madness or foolish or, doesn't know what's going on, right? Because he's rowing on a horse backwards, almost like the tin hat. But you see the word I often use for uxine here, the dexterity. Here, and everything's so carefully painted using Photoshop brushes. Look at this beautiful move here. That little line here on the oar, and even just this nice painterliness here in the background. And again, the color. Very, very, very subtle color, I would argue, in this piece. Spectacular work, edition of 10. And these sold out at 20 Tezos each. So beautiful work from Rat Cloak on Object. Here's Mr. M by The Myth, edition of 78. I'm not sure, maybe selling for 50 cents on Object. So cool work here from The Myth. And yeah, it kind of looks like a myth figure and a gun. In all worlds and on all planes, the myth is awakening. The war is spiritual and is about to begin. So myth is getting going here. Uxine, Artifact 03. So back to Uxine. So this is the third of these like Greek vases that Uxine has done. Nowhere to Run is that the title of this work? No, Artifact 03. So kind of like this Lucifer figure here, and surrounded by, various, the computer with the wings and the halo and the happy face. I mean, there's a lot of humor in Uxine's work here, but you see how beautifully executed it is. Very painterly. Again, these are like digital painters. When you look at that. When you look at Rat Cloak, you look at Uxine, as I call it, like this kind of new era of digital painting, where the brushes are convincing enough, right? It brings us back to Paintbox, what we were just looking at. It brings us back to the conversation at the beginning, where it's like this, but here, in the case of paintbrushes, it's like the higher resolution paintbrush, so to speak. I use higher resolution in quotes, but the more persuasive paintbrush all of a sudden is a feature. All of a sudden you can paint, credibly, quote unquote, in the last 5 years, I would argue. So anyways, beautiful work, selling out at 22 Tezos each. So bringing in 25 times 22, so nice. So maybe over $500 there, 500 Tezos. So maybe $600-700. Rosetio, listening to you. Cool work on Object, fitting the screen quite nicely here, and cool kind of combination of pixelation. Loved how playing around with the skeleton. I thought this was quite original. And then putting some eyes on it, and maybe a bit of an egg in the background by Rosetio. Edition of 3, and selling for only $5. Why so low edition for very low? Interesting. Listening to you. Here is Jan-Lucas Migon, the Surrender special piece, oil digital painting. So more digital painting, as you can see here. So again, using, I guess, digital brushes, digital oil brushes. So another beautiful work here by Jan-Lucas Migon, Skeletons and Bodies in 3 colors. Edition of 20 and selling out at 6 Tezos 66, about $10 each. Melania Elegancia. So this is PP Universal. I thought the composition on this. So of course, Melania Trump at the inauguration with the statement hat, as they were calling it. And what I found interesting about this was the sideways move that PP did here on the top. I thought just a really interesting composition. Edition of 5, one sold for 7 Tezos to Neon Monk. Nov 1914, Para las Flores. Got to speed up a little bit here. So interesting experimentation here, doing flowers this time from Nov 1914. The signature little traces there, little brush strokes or pencil strokes, however you'd put that, also there. Also signature frame. Still available on primary for $8.50. Here's another one by Nov, Camino. Can't remember what that means in Spanish. Got to work on my Spanish, as I may move to Madrid. Let's see. Kind of an open question. Yeah, interesting. So again, you see this kind of signature move here. Just dragging the 1 pixel brush across. Yeah, again, challenging work as ever. Almost looks squished here, this 3D brush by Nov 1914. And here's a work on Rodeo, Nov 1914 Piedra. This is a really nice one. Very cool. Kind of has a museum feel to it with its green on the right and kind of looks like a flower on the left. Very nice. Just 3 colors. Here is Ed Marola or Tego Dago looking for some shadow. Not exactly sure. Here we go. It's kind of this fuzzed out pixel art. And looks like a bit of a video game type scenario. Quite interesting. To way of treating, you see the dithering here, but again, fuzzed out. So quite interesting. Put on Rodeo. How many minted? 24. So bringing in like $3. I think this is the problem. Because even if Ed did this as a 1 of 1, I'm sure he could have gotten at least $20, probably more. So this is the issue at the end of the day. It's why I think there are less mints, or at least from artists I follow. I suspect it's the pay. This is a really nice one. This is on Rodeo, found on Instagram. So I think I saw this one. I don't remember seeing this one, though. Juana Pedro is on a real roll, if you ask me. So another really nice work here. Nice, like these are really going somewhere, aren't they? Nice body of work. So cool work there. Here is Zozo, Balance. Let's see what's going on. Interesting. Sort of on a beach. Beautiful. It's kind of hypnotizing, isn't it? Let me just find my cursor here. Here we go. Balance. Okay, edition of 15 and doing quite well here. 7 gone so far. Kind of soothing work. Let me just fix this. Okay. Cool work from Zozo, as ever. Always beautiful and fun and poetic. Let's continue. Here's Cap'n on Rodeo, Ex-Cowboy 08. So another cool work from Cap'n here. Nice contrast with these kind of still pixels in yellow. And then this kind of cowboy rider, which is part of this recent series, kind of looking off into this pixelation. Here's another one, Ex-Cowboy 09. Even the collecting is down. 91 minted here for Cap'n. Yeah, interesting. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. 4,700 followers. Yeah, so interesting. Anyway, beautiful work here. As we see, again, this contrast between the moving and the still pixels, like a classic Cap'n contrast. Nice 2 suns here. This beautiful, again, rendering here, this beautiful pixelation. And there's our cowboy rider, poetic as ever, and then just a solitary tree in a landscape, almost a sci-fi landscape, with again this pixelation adding this kind of mystical magic. Very cool. Speaking of cool, here's Sophie O'Gore stair packs. I picked up one of these. Beautifully small work, by the way. Look at how awesome this is. The textures and everything, and there, maybe that's a Sophie O'Gore figure, kind of a goth type looking figure, and yeah, just hanging out with all this stuff going on around it. Really cool work. This is the original size, nice and small. Very cool, and that sold out at $380. Really cool work. Here's some nice work by Kennick Zapata. She is growing her Snorlax Fidgetal. So a nice other small work would hang beautifully with that Sophie work here. Let's go back here. Would hang beautifully with that, wouldn't it? Kind of has the same feel, doesn't it? So this is 3 Tezos. I picked one. I picked up the Devo work. This is a beautiful work. This is almost sold out, though. I think this is using some sort of Python script that Kennick Zapata has made on their own. If you're curious about this work and how Kennick Zapata makes this, check out the space that Roon Toon and I did. Yeah, so that's in the X. I started uploading, actually, some of the Spotifys. I've done 3. There's like another 50 to go. But I'm starting to upload. I think it's going to happen. She's showing me her JPEGs collection. So another just beautiful, super interesting artwork here by Kennick Zapata. Really loving the digital kind of feeling of these works. Again, they kind of has a similar aesthetic, which I can't quite, I'm still putting my finger on it, of what we saw with Sophie there. Like this very digital line and edge. Just interesting. Here's another one. I picked up this one. This had a Devo reference. Art collector showing his art collection. We were drinking mezcal and listening to a strange live Devo's bootleg. Well, for that, I definitely, almost like this Devo-like figure here. So another really cool artwork here by Kennick Zapata. That's a GIF, 8 megabytes. Uses AI, by the way, and AI art, and cellular automata, which I think is this Python script that Kennick Zapata works from Terminal, using the terminal. I don't know how it works, but he explained it. This is an artist called The Mint House. I thought their name was Ms. Paint because there is a lot of works being put out under that series. So I'm not sure if the artist is The Mint House or Ms. Paint. Loving these still lifes. Though cool arcade. Looks like, I guess it's done with Microsoft Paint. I'm not positive on this. I have a few here, edition of 12. So VHS rentals, cool subjects, really nicely executed, a little bit of animation in there. Here's another one, number 16. And so, yeah, really interesting, nice work here by, I'm not sure if they're a new artist, The Mint House. I mean, artist I've never heard of on Object. Here's Louis Osborne, Wave of Emotions. Another fun work here by Louis Osborne out of Bristle, kind of a graphic designery work. Again, playing with the happy and the sad face, alternating. Wave of Emotions, edition of 20. Did that sell out? It did at 10 Tezos. Pretty reasonable price. This was cool too. Self-portrait with bandaged ear and pipe. This is by Daniel W. And I thought this was a beautifully executed work here. Very fun. Portrait of Van Gogh. Here in Daniel W.'s style, and a few selling here, about 10 selling, and edition of 26. Cool work by Braindead for the Fake Whale Gallery, edition of 1, and the price is 420 Tezos. So cool pixel art here, work with by Braindead, signature kind of warm gray in the background, and just some different elements kind of juxtaposed. And edition of 1. This is who? This is the Collab Room 2. This is Spiegels Maskinen and Kareem Safa. So Xerox, I think, getting together some wild, created by Wide Awake Beats and curated by Xerox. So, yeah, so all to say, cool show here. So Kareem Safa and Spiegels Maskinen. in combination. Interesting results here. Edition of 25. Here's Pixel Fool, just on X. Cool animated abstract pixel art. Signature. Here's a great one by Françoise Gamma on Rodeo. Gorgeous, gorgeous. It's kind of that painterly digital noise that I am just all over. It's like the paint dripping on the canvas here. Beautiful work by Françoise Gamma, keeping it new with the walking figure here. Here is Murakit, and this is newer series where Murakit's playing with these kind of old frames, kind of pixel art that we see in the background. There's some kind of casino references in some of them. Edition of 3 and not listed. This is Masqué and Element Lee. User interface, home, nostalgia, postmodernism data. So not sure what the combination is here. Is this for collapse rooms? No, this is Masqué rooms. So interesting. So Element Lee, not minting a whole lot on Tezos recently. Good to see some new work by Element Lee. Very cool pixel artist. Here's a work put on Instagram. Split Reality by Element Lee. So just 2 colors here. Always mysterious. Here's Hermipe pixel art. And this was part of a live drawing, as you can see here. And there's Hermipe, I think, working on the phone, doing a live show on the phone. Like, how cool is that? So this is the in-progress drawing, So really just awesome here. I assume in Japan somewhere. I did a live painting event to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Shizen no Kuni Nursery School. I love it. I love it. I love it. So nice piece, right? This was cool. I picked this up, actually. This is a 1 of 1 from OX Edwards, only 7 Tezos, 777. Bennett like Petsky. So interestingly, I discovered this artist on, I think when we were tracking Rodeo, and I bought their work on Tezos, interestingly. I never bought their work on Rodeo, but I did buy it on Tezos. Nice work. Ball. Logo. I really enjoyed this piece. 1 of 1. Pretty reasonable at 8 Tezos. This is an edition of 10, Save the Princess, kind of a video game reference. Love these kind of squares. Everything's square, or these triangles here. I think we saw this on Twitter, but this sold on, this ended up selling on Object for 20 Tezos to make TXT. Love the concept here. See an old monitor, on-chain ads. And I think this is, I don't know if this one's on-chain. It is. So this artist, 0x Edwards is minting these on-chain. This is also on-chain, I think. Edition of 1 for 20 Tezos. So pretty interesting there. Gatekeeper Priest, this is by Stalamir. And I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. So cool pixel art work here by Stalamir, kind of sci-fi pixel art. Edition of 1, and this is at auction for 120 Tezos. Here is eBoy Arts, or $5 for base on-chain. So maybe this is for somewhere on base. So Pioneer Pixel Artists, interesting work there. A couple of more from them, from eBoy. This on Rodeo, Googly Grix, 24, 200 minted. So it's pretty good. And here's Googly Grix 31, 150 minted. My fave so far, as Pikachu says. So cool work there. And here's one more, Googly Grix number 12. So cool work there. Here's Gogolitis with a couple of 1 of 1s, Nova Splinter. So playing with the space theme, as we've been seeing, and kind of looking like a 1920, it is 16 by 9, 1920 by 1080 style. 300 by 169 is the original size. Fit to screen, 16 by 9. Here's another one for fit to screen, Dyad Network. And a quote from Carl Jung, in all chaos there's cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Or as William Burroughs says, how random is random? Interesting question. So yes, so more work, more cosmic work by Gogolitis. Look at this. I mean, speaking of color, speaking of the magic of color, Manidal, another jaw-dropping work, frankly. This is a stunner. All of the gorgeousness of stained glass is found in this work. This is beautiful. This should be stained glass, or I kind of was saying, and in collaboration with Masqué, I might add. What is Masqué? Is that a gallery? Is that a person? Masqué Rooms. Not exactly sure what this is. Interesting. Oh, there's a nice one by Rinny Fish. So pretty rad. Never saw this. So, wow. Look at how beautiful that is. So I don't know what Masqué Rooms is, but it's looking pretty good. Edition of 10 for 5 Tezos. Here's Ken Zapata again with some more AI artwork. More of these kind of anime figures with this hyper processing in here, as you see in the eye. Pretty rad work there with some Greek writing. Aphrodite. I believe I read that right. That's Aphrodite. Interesting. Very cool. Edition of 1, that's 40 Tezos. Here's another one. Iris, maybe. Edition of 1. And yeah, you see how gorgeous these are. Look at these awesome textures. So definitely onto something there. Here's Kazuhiro Ehara with what almost looks like a glitch ROM, but I'm not sure. Interesting experimentation here. We have another one, different colors. So very interesting work here from Kazuhiro Ehara, and another one at 39 Tezos each. Great orange and gray. Always a favorite here. And here's the Kurt Hustle Collective, a big happy birthday. 3 years on the hustle. That's right. Kurt Hustle Collective got lost online, and 3 years later, still hustling. Too close to the Wi-Fi signal. And here it's like an office birthday party for 3 years on the hustle. Gorgeously. Like, it's easy to, they all do this. These aren't like filters, I don't think. Like, this is all done manually, probably analog. These are, because you see it here. Just gorgeous glitches here from Kurt Hustle Collective. Here's Ex-Mortal Idol, edition of 11. Cool colors here. Kind of interesting color combination. And here, selling out at 10 Tezos. Now 55 on secondary. So Ex-Mortal continues to do awesome. Here's Elby doing a homage to David Lynch. In Heaven, Everything is Fine. Of course, the track from, is that Eraserhead? And that Angelo Badalamenti. Or is it Twin Peaks? I think it's In Heaven, I think it's maybe Twin Peaks, actually. I can't remember. But Angelo Badalamenti was, I think, David Lynch's favorite soundtrack maker. Great. There's some great soundtracks you can get. And of course, that song was on it. I think maybe it's Twin Peaks. This was a brilliant work by Renke. Look at Renke. Keeping things interesting here. Always. Beautiful, beautiful work by Renke. Edition of 1, unlisted. Here's another one, Sekito. Edition of 1. Always keeping it interesting over here with Renke. On Object, No Hygiene. Nails. So keeping it weird as ever. No Hygiene. I think we have a few works. Just hilariously weird. Amazingly weird, as you see here. So AI artists, No Hygiene. Pretty amazing. And here, another one. So quite interesting as ever. Here is Neural Divine with an interesting work here. Kind of a sun that has been kind of blotted out somehow. Some more interesting AI artwork. Here is Yoa In, who is doing quite well. 346 mints here. Let's get a closer look at this. Let's see if we can do this. Do this. There we go. So very nice kind of abstracts here from Yoa In. 300 minted, 8,000 by 8,000. So huge works. These are on Rodeo. And here's Scamra with some beautiful textures here. That's on X. As you see, you can't even see what's going on, but it's just beautifully done, very painterly. Work here. Here's another one by Scamra with these kind of edgy pixels. Very organic looking pixelation from Scamra. And here is Eloy. GM Gymnast, what emotion are you trying to balance today? So a cool physical here from Eloy. of, I guess, a gymnast, almost looking like they're on a sword or something. Here, who is this? This is Gakism. And what does it say? I can't wait to the day I'm free from society. Cool work here, cool drawing from Gakism. This is actually a friend of mine in Berlin, put out a really nice work here. Maria Nadyanova, I think is how you say her last name. Very nice piece, isn't it? Kind of has a nice, cool 19th century feel. Beautifully executed. Very impressive. Saw that on Instagram. Here is a David Lynch homage from Kyle MacLachlan, art by the amazingly talented Javier Mayoral. As you see here, a little picture of David Lynch, which goes in your, that's what the jean pocket is for here. So cool work there. Here's Nugget Brain, another classic from Nugget Brain with Albert Contemporary. Has a show from only for a weekend. Here's Horiguchi Shingo. Interesting physicals here, I believe out of Japan. Here is Sainer Garden Studies. Almost looks like JPEG'd out stuff. Just interesting painting here, as you can see. Another interesting work. This is Nick Vicio Habits. So another physical. Kind of looking like airbrush, but not sure. Interesting. And here's Bondoso Bandido, or Herms, I think is the first name. So interesting, again, just like a machine. The amount of work that Bondoso Bandido puts out. Here's another one by Bondoso Bandido. Just love their work. Here's Babachik Matiha. Another work, this is from 2022, The Little Comedians. That one's a little older. This is It's Not Gallery posting Jizu. Another interesting kind of color scheme here. Almost looks like airbrush, but might not be. Jerry Meyer, Sharks Before Braces. This artist often likes to play with kind of transformed pixelation, so to speak. I think this was posted by Sabato. This was awesome. Tom from MySpace, done in textile, crochet acrylic. This is some exciting artwork. A little treasure for those that watch the whole show. Wow. Spectacular. Spectacular. Love it. And that is your show, my friends. Thanks for joining me. I'll try to put out some, maybe some beginner videos this weekend. Let's see what happens. Until next time, take care.